Welcome to Round the Table, the meeting...
It's really difficult, isn't it?
Welcome to Round the Table from the Meeting Point, your Academy of Conversations, right here in the centre of Bilbao. Hello, my name's Richard, and I'm in charge of the evening conversation classes.
And my name is Usoa, and I take morning classes with retired people.
Before we go any further, I think we should have the news. Cue the news jingle. So here is the news. 1 year of Meeting Point English on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah,
1 year
1
already?
year, yeah. And how many videos do you think we have?
Over 60?
Yeah, I think it's over 70.
Wow.
I think it was maybe 75. Maybe this is number 75. Who knows?
Very good.
So, and how many followers do we have? How many, what are they called?
Subscribers.
How many subscribers do you think we have?
Let me guess.
Go on.
450.
Correct. Maybe 453. But this will be going out on Sunday, so maybe we'll have 500.
Do you think so?
It's possible.
We'll
Certainly
see.
after people hear this, yeah. So here is our Meeting Point podcast, and our plan is to record one of these every week, and it will go out every Sunday morning.
Nice.
So people can listen to us having a conversation whilst they have their Sunday morning cup of coffee.
Nice.
So, as I was saying, with the news, we have the new course which starts on Monday the 8th
Of April? Yeah.
of April. And the new book is at the printers now. So probably, well, hopefully by Monday we'll have the new book with 12 interesting topics to discuss over the following weeks. And I think with our podcast every week we'll discuss the topic that is in the book, which means next Sunday we'll be discussing conversation.
Oh, what can you say about conversation then?
Well, lots of things, but people will have to wait till next Sunday, won't they?
Wow.
To find out what we have to say about conversation. A conversation about conversation is a very interesting thing.
Yeah. What other topics do you have in your book? Can you give us an example?
Yes. One of them is called noise,
Oh.
and why we need to escape from noise, and why some places are noisy, and what it's like living in a noisy neighbourhood, all that kind of thing we're discussing. There's one that's just called green, which is kind of environmental issues. We're doing cinema. We haven't discussed cinema and film for a long time. So we're going to be talking about whether there is a future for cinema now that everybody has sort of online entertainment.
Yeah. Funny you say that, because I thought nobody goes to the cinema these days, yeah. But then talking to people, they say it's full.
Some people go every week,
Yeah. So
Anyway,
people-
we'll be discussing cinema in the future.
Okay.
In about 3 weeks, maybe.
Sorry.
That's okay. So before we finish the subject of news, we have to say that the word news is very peculiar, don't you think?
Why is that then?
Why is it peculiar?
Yeah.
Well, because it always ends in an S.
Yeah.
But it's not really a plural.
So, what do you mean? Can you explain that?
Yes, I can. Well, normally, if you see a word that ends in an S, it's because it's a plural, or if it's a verb, it's a third person singular. But usually on nouns, when it ends in an S, it's a plural. But some words are actually singular, and they just happen to have an S on the end. And news is one of those.
But you wouldn't say a news, could you?
No, you can't say a news. You can't make it singular like that. No, it's sort of uncountable. So you can say news. If someone says, "Have you heard the news?" and then they tell you a story about something that's happened, don't wait for a second story, because there might only be one story. If you really want to make it singular, you can say a piece of news if you want to make it a singular countable. But generally we just talk about the news, and I have some news, people say. But remember, the news is good. It takes a singular verb.
That's an easy mistake to make, isn't it? For
Yes,
us.
and that's why I'm saying it, because it's a very, very common mistake.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other words, nouns, that look like they might be plural, but they're not?
Well, not right now.
There are certain subjects that you might study, for example.
Oh, maths.
Maths, yeah. Mathematics is interesting. Yeah? They always call it math in America, don't they? Maths, I call it. Mathematics. Yeah, and things like economics. Economics has an S, but it's not a plural. Economics is interesting. Politics
Oh, yeah.
is boring. And also physics and some other things like that. Statistics
Okay.
is
yeah,
an
I see.
interesting subject. So there are quite a few of those topics which have an S on the end.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Very interesting. What else do you have for us then, Richard?
So the next thing to discuss is, as we've been teaching English for we didn't say that the Meeting Point's been open for 8 years. Maybe that would have been good. So let's talk about learning English. And I think it's time for a top tip. So what's your top tip for learning English then?
I think being constant.
Being constant, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's very important.
So do you think that's the biggest mistake that most people make?
Yeah, because maybe if they go to English classes and it's once or twice a week, they spend those hours in class and that's it. They don't do anything else at home.
Yeah.
And then maybe they study for the exam
Yeah.
and they spend like a few hours studying just before the exam. But it doesn't work like that, I don't think.
You mean you have to do something every day?
It's better to do less, but every day.
Yeah. Yes. It's a bit like if you were learning the piano, for example. Another of my music analogies. If you wanted to learn the piano and you went to piano class once a week for 1 hour or 2 hours, you wouldn't really make much progress if you didn't have a piano at home.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to learn things and then go and practice them and use them for something. So if you just went and played the piano once for 1 hour once a week, you would not really make progress unless you spent 5 or 10 minutes every day.
You said something interesting. Use it for something. And I heard this, I read this sentence the other day. I really like. And it's a guy is talking about his experience learning English, yeah? He never thought he was very good, but he loved playing video games. So he spent hours. I think he's Mexican. So when he was playing video games, they got them from the USA.
Yeah.
And it was only in English.
Yeah.
So he had to learn English to play video games, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And, well, now he's learned more languages. But he said, don't do something to learn English to do something.
Mm.
And I thought that's a very good sentence.
Yeah, yeah. That's very good, yeah. It's similar to other people, because I know people that really like reading things online in English, but it's not because they're studying English, they're just interested in what it says.
Yeah.
Because some people read online car magazines and that kind of thing. They read all about cars and that, that sort of thing that interests them. So because they're interested in studying something, it means that they learn English as they go, which is a much better way of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that when you talk to people, the ones who are good at English, and not because of they've been following lessons, it's because they had an interest in something.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone else was telling me as well about dogs, yeah. She really liked dogs when she was younger.
Dogs?
Dogs, yeah. Yeah, and dogs' behavior and things like that. So she found the best articles were from American universities.
Oh, right, yeah.
So that's how she learned English.
Well, if you want to read articles from universities, you have to learn English, don't you? Because everybody writes those papers in English now.
Yeah.
Used to be in Latin a couple of 100 years ago, and now everybody does it in English.
Yeah. But if you are reading one of those articles for your classroom, for example, maybe it'll be a bit boring. But if you love dogs, you'll have lots of information there. And then you'll enjoy it and learn what you want.
Mm-hmm. So people have to enjoy it then. This is another key to learning something, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's the most important thing, I think.
And time. I think it's just a question of time with learning anything. If you think that you can do something in 5 minutes, you won't do it. Or if you're over ambitious, if you set the bar too high, there's an interesting phrase. Set the bar too high. It means when your ambition you have too great an ambition, which you can't fulfill because it's too complicated. So you get lots of people that think, if I do this intensive, I'll speak a language by the end of the month. But really, they need to apply some time to these things. You can't always rush through things, can you?
No. And then another thing is just to learn to enjoy the path. Yeah.
You mean the journey is...
The journey.
What is it? The journey is better than the destination or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
I'm sure there's an old Chinese proverb about that.
Yeah.
So enjoy it, yes. And spend time... If you begin to enjoy it, then you can spend more time on it. And if you set yourself a task of 5 minutes every day, if you enjoy it, you might find that it's actually half an hour every day once you start doing it. But it's starting, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of the problem is starting a project.
Yeah.
You quite often put things off, don't you?
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons for that. One is because people don't know where to start, what to do.
Yeah.
So just getting a book might seem a bit boring.
Mm-hmm.
But now, with all the social media and all the technology apps, I mean, you can start anywhere, really.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of technology, but you can't beat a real conversation, can you?
That's
what we need.
Yeah, but, well, you need conversations, you need listening, you need reading, so you can get lots of different things from...
Yeah. But we'll discuss conversation next week anyway. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
So, yes, keep it as a hobby, make sure you enjoy it, and don't waste time doing Sudokus. There are better things to do than Candy Crush. Some people spend hours doing Candy Crush, don't they?
Yeah.
Gosh, what a waste of time. Yes, so as I was saying, don't be over ambitious of what you're going to achieve, which brings me on to the quote of the week, which is related to this. Now, I actually heard this on a program about gardening. There was a woman who had a wonderful garden, and somebody asked her philosophy of gardening, and she said, we overestimate what we can do in a day, but underestimate what can be achieved in a year. And I thought that was very good.
Very good. Very good.
And I think it applies to lots of things. So if you, like we were saying, if you were studying English and you said, right, every morning I'm going to spend 5 or 10 minutes, I'm going to read the news online or something like that, or listen to a 10-minute podcast or something like that. After a year of 5 or 10 minutes every morning, that's a lot of time, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
And you can do a lot in that time. Yeah. Anyway, that's the quote of the week.
Very good. Very good. I like it a lot.
Good. And now, finally, before we finish, shall we play a game?
Yes, please.
Shall we play What's the Difference?
Ooh.
Okay, do you want to be the question master?
Yeah, I want to see if you can tell me what's the difference. Yeah?
Okay, here's the challenge. You're going to give me 2 things and I'm going to tell you the difference between them. Yeah?
Okay then. So, Richard,
Yes.
what's the difference between try and prove?
Try and prove. Very interesting. This is another one that a lot of people get confused with, especially people here in Bilbao, because there's a Spanish word, isn't there?
Yeah.
Probar.
Probar,
I'm showing off
yeah.
my Spanish knowledge. That actually means try and prove. There's one word in Spanish and there's 2 words in English. Well, try is when you don't know what the answer is. For example, if you've never eaten some food before and people say, try this biscuit, for example, because you don't know if you're going to like it or not. So you might try to do something because you don't know if it's possible or not. If you use prove, you know what the answer is and you need to demonstrate to another person.
You need to prove it.
You need to prove it, yes. And so this is what you do in a court, for example. If the policeman says you are guilty, then they have to prove that you are guilty. P-R-O-V-E. And the noun is proof. P-R-O-O-F. Pronounced proof. Prove, proof. Am I correct?
Yeah, very good.
Do I get a point?
A point for Richard.
Hurrah!
Okay, let's go to the second one then.
Okay.
This one is a paper and a piece of paper.
A paper and a piece of paper. This is a very easy one because a paper, when people talk about a paper, they mean a newspaper. That's what they mean. So when you are in class and you want to write something and you don't have any paper, you say to the teacher, can I have a piece of paper, please?
I see.
Don't say, can I have a paper? Because he'll take out a copy of the Financial Times and give it to you, thinking he's being quite hilarious.
Is that what you do?
That's what I do, yes. Yes. So a piece of paper is a piece of paper, a sheet of paper. But a paper refers to a newspaper.
Okay.
1 point to me.
1 point for Richard.
Hurrah.
Very good.
And the next one.
The next one is a play and a game.
A play and a game. Right, okay. Play, if you use it as a verb, you can play football, you can play Monopoly. So it could be for sport, it could be board games, you can play chess, play cards, you can play lots of things. You can play hide and seek.
So you play games?
You play games, yeah. Sports and games, yeah. But if you turn play into a noun and say a play, it's what you see in the theatre. For example, Hamlet or Macbeth. They are plays.
We see the difference, yeah?
1 point to me.
Very good.
And the next one.
Well, this is a very important year for election. So, what's the difference between election and choice?
Election and choice. Here we have two words, and they are very similar. But usually in English, election is used in the political sense when you vote for a member of parliament or a president or a prime minister or whoever you choose to elect. Elect is the verb, which means to choose. Again, in the political sense, usually, occasionally you see elect when they're not talking politics. But usually, for most things, you choose things rather than elect. You have a choice. That's the noun, a choice. So if somebody offers you biscuits, for example, I use biscuits again in my example. Somebody has a box of one of these biscuit assortments, lots of different biscuits, and you can choose a biscuit. Yes, you wouldn't elect a biscuit because the chocolate hobnob cannot be the president.
Why is it too formal then? Is it
Yeah,
more
it's too
like
formal, yeah. I guess it's because it's a Latin thing, and usually in English the Latin things are to do with governments and science, and medical things are Latin, and all of the administrative type things like administrative, for example, and government, and all of those political type words are usually of Latin origins. So I guess choice, I don't know the origin of choice, French maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I guess.
But election is more technical and more formal, yeah. Okay, another point.
And last one, and
The
that's
final one.
very important, I think.
Let's see if I can have 5 out of 5.
I think you'll get this one. It's remind and remember.
Remind and remember. This one was in class the other day. In fact, it comes up quite regularly. They are very similar. The thing that's going on is quite similar, really. Remember is when you think about something that you need to know or something that happened in the past. Remind is to make somebody remember. So if I tell you, if I say, don't forget to buy some bread, for example, I would be reminding you to buy some bread. And maybe you remember, and I don't need to remind you.
Yeah. So to remind is to make someone remember, basically, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And when you're in a conversation and somebody is talking, and the thing they are talking about makes you think of something similar, you say, oh, that reminds me.
That's very useful sentence.
It is a good phrase, yeah. That reminds me. Or that reminds me of the time. And then you can tell your interesting anecdote, which is related to somebody else's story.
Yeah.
So, that's what's the difference. I think I
Wow.
have 5 points.
Very good, Richard.
Thank you
very
much.
good.
Thank you very much.
So I hope this is clear for everybody, but if not, leave a comment and we'll explain it to you again.
Yes, you can put a comment in the comment section below. And if you've got any other suggestions for things that we should be talking about, And I hope that next week, next Sunday morning, you can tune in again and join us at Round the Table from the Meeting Point in Bilbao.
Well, thank you very much, Richard. And
Thank you very much, Usa.
see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.